shopping cart smashed my headlight. We worried we'd have to fight to get paid for such a small claim.
And life would revolve around the shopping cart, shopping cart, shopping cart. But that never happened. Geico got it fixed fast.
Soup time!
It feels good to get going again. It feels good to Geico.
Smart founders know something most people miss. Get your domain name even if you're not ready to launch your business. With Wix, you can grab yours now.
We almost had a failure. Chat. We don't want that. Well, looks like YouTube's up. Let's see what the delay is on YouTube. Hello, chat. I know you can see me now. There I am. Used to play PlayStation 2 games. This was probably your thing. Okay. I got YouTube right this time. What happened? What happened, chat? How did your streamer do something right? You never know, though. You never know. You never know when I'm going to do something right, and you never know when I'm going to do something wrong. And then the stream's going to end just randomly. Nah. Chat, that doesn't happen as much as it used to. I have solid shit. I'm talking shit right now. Watch, it's going to... I better be quiet. Well, I do have a fucking playlist today. Holy shit. There's a lot going on, chat. There's a lot going on, chat. Not gonna lie. Let's get started.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org.
Alright, there's our playlist. I found it. Man, I need to turn something down. No, I'm good. No, we're good, I think. Okay, we're ready now. I'm super tired. I
Peace
woke
report.
up.
I'm Amy.
Personal news. I woke up last night. It was like 12:30 in the morning. I was tired as fuck, but I was awake. So I had to watch TV for 3 hours. Next thing I knew, I was waking up and turning the TV off and going back to sleep. But it was like 3 a.m. So then I had to wake up at 6. So I'm tired. Okay. That is crazy. YouTube actually has...
Goodman. On Capitol Hill, the heads of 3 federal immigration agencies all defended the Trump administration's mass deportation campaign. Todd Lyons, the acting head of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, Rodney Scott, the Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, and Joseph Edlow, the Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, testified before the House Homeland Security Committee on Tuesday.
Yes, they did.
They refused to comment on the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preti by federal immigration agents. Lyons, the acting ICE director, mentioned his agency would maintain an active presence during the World Cup this summer. Lyons was also questioned about whether ICE is surveilling protesters, as multiple outlets have reported. He denied the agency's compiling a database tracking U.S. citizens.
He's lying.
One of your officers in Maine said to one of the individuals protesting, "We're going to put your face in a little database." What does that mean? Do you have a little database of Americans
No, sir, we don't.
Then what do you think your ICE agent was doing to this individual when he said those statements?
I can't speak for that individual, sir, but I can assure you there is no database that's tracking United States citizens.
Meanwhile, Democratic lawmakers are continuing to withhold funding for DHS, threatening a partial government shutdown starting Saturday, unless Republicans agree to their demands to rein in federal immigration agents by requiring judicial warrants, better identification of DHS officers, new use of force standards, and a stop to racial profiling. In more immigration news, an immigrant family filed a lawsuit earlier this month saying their 18-month-old toddler was returned to the ICE jail in Dilley, Texas, amidst a measles outbreak and denied medication after she was hospitalized with a life-threatening respiratory illness. The girl is identified as Amalia in the lawsuit.
Oh,
the girl and her
cutie.
2 parents have since been released from ICE custody. Meanwhile, a federal class action lawsuit by the ACLU and 3 Latino families alleges law enforcement used aggressive tactics and unjustly detained hundreds of people, including children, during an immigration raid in Wilder, Idaho last October. The day of the raid, more than 200 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers descended on a popular horse racing venue with armored trucks and helicopters, detaining approximately 400 people, including U.S. citizens and children, some as young as 3 years old, according to the ACLU. People describe being shoved by agents, dragged out of their cars with flashbang grenades, shot with rubber bullets, while parents and children were zip-tied at gunpoint and detained for several hours. Democratic Congressmember Ro Khanna has accused the Justice Department of improperly redacting the names of wealthy men with ties to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. On Tuesday, Khanna took to the floor of the House and revealed the names of 6 men, including billionaire Leslie Wexner, the former CEO of Victoria's Secret.
Salvatore Navora, Zorab Mikaladze, Leopig Leonor, Nicola Caputa, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai Ports World, and billionaire businessman Leslie Wexner, who was labeled as a co-conspirator by the FBI.
It comes amidst new revelations about Trump's knowledge of Epstein's crimes. According to a 2019 FBI interview contained in the Epstein files, the former Palm Beach police chief, Michael Reeder, said Trump called him back in 2006, just as Epstein's criminal sex charges were becoming public, to say, quote, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this," unquote. Trump also said Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, was, quote, "evil," and to focus on her, unquote. That contradicts Trump's own statements after Epstein's arrest in July 2019, saying, quote, "I had no idea," when asked about Epstein's abuse of teen girls. Meanwhile, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick's name has appeared in more than 250 documents in the Epstein files, which include details about how Lutnick arranged for his nanny to meet with Epstein and had her resume sent to him in 2013. In 2008, Epstein was convicted in Florida of soliciting prostitution from a minor. Lutnick is now facing bipartisan calls to resign from his position. On Tuesday, he testified in a Senate hearing that he and his family traveled to Epstein's private island.
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island.
That was Lutnick's admission about visiting Epstein's island in 2012. But a year ago, Lutnick told a very different story, saying his last meeting with Epstein was in 2005, when after moving next door to Epstein, he visited his house and saw a massage table in the living room. Lutnick then says Epstein got weirdly close to him and said he got a massage every day and, quote, "got the right kind of massage," unquote. Lutnick then said this in his podcast.
And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. Really? So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Sure.
Again, his island visit with Epstein was something like 7 years later. In its latest attack against LGBTQ+ people, the Trump administration has removed a pride flag from the historic Stonewall National Monument here in New York City.
We really needed to do that.
Stonewall became the first national monument to LGBTQ+ rights following the 1969 Stonewall Rebellion. This is a resident who lives across the street from the Stonewall Monument.
It meant that there was pride in the fight for equal rights. And you know, I'm gonna cry. But anybody's civil rights are impinged on, and that means that anybody else's can be.
She's right.
That, you know, that is a measure of our safety just smuggled away in the middle of the night or whenever it was that they did it. It's very, very depressing and sad.
The Trump administration plans to cut $600 million in public health funds from 4 Democratic-led states. The proposed cuts will impact California, Minnesota, Illinois, and Colorado, and slash grants to state and local public health departments. The Health and Human Services Department, which is led by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., reportedly claimed the grants managed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention were being terminated because they didn't reflect the agency's priorities. Many of the funds that'll be slashed sustained health programs for transgender and LGBTQ+ people and children, as well as Black women. President Trump's meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House today as the U.S. continues to threaten Iran. On Tuesday, Trump said he could send another aircraft carrier to strike Iran if negotiations over the country's nuclear program fail. Trump told Axios, quote, either we'll make a deal or we'll have to do something very tough like last time, unquote. The U.S. and Iran held talks Friday in Oman for the first time since the 12-day war back in June last year. Negotiations are set to continue, but a date and location hasn't been confirmed yet. This is Ali Larijani, a top advisor to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
From
the beginning, we believe that war does not resolve matters between the two countries, and the regional disputes between Iran and the West must be resolved through dialogue. It is a mistake on the part of others to believe that they could resolve issues through the language of force.
The Wall Street Journal is reporting the Pentagon will send 200 U.S. troops to Nigeria to train Nigeria's military to fight Islamist militants. It comes after President Trump repeatedly accused Nigeria of failing to protect Christians from terrorist attacks, despite the fact that both Muslims and Christians have been killed in indiscriminate attacks by armed groups. Back in December, the U.S. launched airstrikes claiming to target the Islamic State in northwestern Nigeria. In Sudan, the UN Children's Fund has warned more than half of all children in parts of North Darfur are acutely malnourished, with 2 more areas in the region experiencing famine levels of hunger. This is UNICEF spokesperson Ricardo Pires.
Famine thresholds for malnutrition have been surpassed in Umbaru and Kernoi, locations that weren't previously considered at risk. Extreme hunger and malnutrition come for children first, the youngest, the smallest, the most vulnerable. And in Sudan, it's spreading. These are children between 6 months and 5 years old, and they are running out of time.
According to recent UN data, over 30 million people out of Sudan's population, nearly 47 million, are in need of urgent humanitarian assistance. This comes as Reuters reports United Arab Emirates allegedly funded a campaign in Ethiopia to train fighters of the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The UAE has repeatedly denied involvement in Sudan's war. The Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, has halted all flights to and from El Paso International Airport for 10 days, citing, quote, special security reasons, unquote. Texas State Representative Vincent Perez of El Paso told the New York Times, quote, I have never heard of an American airspace being shut down for 10 days absent a major emergency, unquote. El Paso is the second most populous city in the U.S. near the border with Mexico. In Canada, at least 9 people were killed and over 24 injured in a mass shooting in a small town in northeastern British Columbia. 6 people were found dead in Tumbler Ridge Secondary School, while another died on the way to the hospital. 2 others were found dead at a local residence, with police saying the incidents are likely connected. The suspected shooter reportedly also died of what appeared to be a self-inflicted injury. Darryl Krakauka, mayor of Tumbler Ridge, where the shooting took place, told the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, quote, I will know every victim. I've been here 19 years, and we're a small community. I don't call them residents. I call them family, he said. The FBI raid on the Fulton County Election Office in Georgia last month was based on debunked claims from election deniers, according to a search warrant affidavit unsealed on Tuesday. The raid came after a referral from Kurt Olson, a lawyer who tried to overturn the 2020 election. One of the debunked claims listed in the affidavit comes from a so-called citizen researcher named Joe Rossi, who claimed the number of ballot images for Fulton County did not match the total number of ballots cast. But the state of Georgia did a machine and hand recount of the ballots and confirmed the tally. David Becker, the executive director of the Center for Election Innovation and Research, said, quote, how an agent could sign off on an affidavit and a magistrate sign off on a warrant that confirms there's no evidence of intent to commit a federal crime is hard to fathom, he said. A federal grand jury on Tuesday declined to indict 6 Democratic lawmakers who were targeted by the Trump administration after they appeared in a 90-second video urging service members to refuse unlawful orders. The 6 Democrats are Congress members Jason Crow of Colorado, Maggie Goodlander and Chris DeLuzio of New Hampshire, and Chrissy Houlihan of Pennsylvania, as well as Senators Mark Kelly of Arizona and Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan. At the time, President Trump called for the execution of the Democratic lawmakers in the video. And in New Jersey, Ana Lilia Mejia, who helped run Senator Bernie Sanders' second presidential campaign, won the Democratic primary to fill the House seat left vacant by New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill. Mejia defeated former Democratic Congressmember Tom Malinowski. In the primary, Mejia was the only candidate to say she believed Israel committed genocide in Gaza. She has also called for abolishing ICE.
All right.
And those are some of the headlines.
Let's go.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and
I'll vote
Peace
for her.
Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss
Huh. You little bitch. You little bitch.
You've got the best lawyer's job in America because your mission is justice and your clients are the American people. But to promote justice for the people, you've got to listen to the victims, like the women seated behind you today. Those are just some of the hundreds of survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's global sex trafficking ring who are demanding that the truth be told and are demanding accountability for the abusers who trafficked and raped them. You still haven't met with these survivors. So with their permission, let me introduce to you the survivors and late survivors' family members who are present today. There's Teresa Helm, there's Jess Michaels, Laura Bloom McGee, Danny Bensky, Liz Stein, Marina Lacerda, Sky and Amanda Roberts, who are the family of the late Virginia Giuffre, Charlene Richard, and Lisa Phillips. Now, you're not showing a lot of interest in the victims, Madam Attorney General.
Now look, chat. This woman's going to yap at you. Tom Bonnie's going to yell at you. And I'm going to show you a person who is pretty much an enabler, the enabler of the fascists, the enabler of allowing everything to happen. She's the tip of the spear right now. YouTube should be getting 1080p. So if it's looking blurry on YouTube, it's because you have
whether it's Epstein's human trafficking ring or the homicidal governmental violence against citizens in Minneapolis, as Attorney General, you're siding with the perpetrators and you're ignoring the victims. That will be your.
As much as I dislike Mr. Raskin, I mean, he's great, but he is 100% right.
Legacy, unless you act quickly to change
He's right
course.
on this one. He's
You're
right on
running
this.
a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice. You've been ordered by subpoena and by Congress to turn over 6 million documents, photographs, and videos in the Epstein files, but you've turned over only 3 million. You say you're not turning over the other 3 million because they're somehow duplicative, but we know that there are actual memos of victim statements in there. And you also took down the Department of Justice's prosecution memo from 2019. So it's clearly not all duplicative, but even if it were, why not release it? Just release all the duplicative stuff.
Well, he just said there, she has been in charge of releasing these files and been in charge of what was redacted and what wasn't. And in fact, the stuff that's redacted, he hasn't even seen. And he's only seen some of them that are not redacted and have not been released, that still aren't released. But there's still more of them that he hasn't even seen that are fully redacted. When in closed door session, these guys are supposed to be able to see these redacted files. You know what I mean? Like, that's normal precedent.
In the half you did produce, you redacted the names of abusers, enablers, accomplices, and co-conspirators, apparently to spare them embarrassment and disgrace, which is the exact opposite of what the law ordered you to do. Even worse, you shockingly failed to redact many of the victims' names, which is what you were ordered to do by Congress. Some of the victims had come forward publicly, but many had not. Many had kept their torment private, even from family and friends, but you published their names, their identities, their images on thousands of pages for the world to see. So you ignored the law, and even with over 100,000 employees at your disposal, you acted with some mixture of staggering incompetence, cold indifference, and jaded cruelty towards more than 1,000 victims raped, abused, and trafficked. This performance screams cover-up. Convicted sex trafficker and groomer Ghislaine Maxwell opened the gates of hell to Virginia Giuffre and hundreds of other victims, as Virginia recorded in her remarkable book, Nobody's Girl. But when Maxwell was subpoenaed to come testify before Congress, you and Todd Blanche quickly moved her from a higher security prison to a minimum security camp in Texas, where she's enjoyed 5-star treatment, including catered meals, private gym time, and access to a therapy puppy. All because Todd Blanche, who's utterly failed to investigate the monstrous crimes of Epstein and Maxwell's co-conspirators, spent 9 hours with Maxwell and satisfied himself that she would have nothing untoward to say about.
Honestly, I'm not a person that thinks that anyone deserves to be punished. Like, you know what I mean? Like, tortured, punished, even if you're the most evil person. That's why I want free healthcare for chuds in MAGA. That's why I want them all to have free healthcare, because I know it's hurting them and they don't know it. You know? That's why I yell about it.
Which is your only real interest in the matter, based on institutional performance. But abandoning victims and coddling perpetrators is what you do best. When the FBI opened a criminal investigation into the brutal killing in Minneapolis of Renee Good, a poet and 37-year-old mother of 3, by Trump's masked paramilitary.
Yeah, what'd you do? God. The printers must make ton of money.
ICE agents, you shut it down. You claim you're investigating the cold-blooded murder of Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse at the VA. But how can we trust the administration when the president and Kristi Noem call Preddy a domestic terrorist and Stephen Miller called him a would-be assassin? Not only do you refuse to share evidence with the state and local investigators and prosecutors in Minnesota, you have blocked their...
Like, Rolf Nader is asleep. Rolf Nader is on the left of him, sitting next to what's her name there, and he's asleep. He could give fucks less.
Access to the crime scene and the evidence. How are you seeking justice for Marimar Martinez, the Montessori school teacher in Chicago who was shot 5 times by a Border Patrol agent who bragged about it on text? Or the family of Keith Porter, a father of 2 shot and killed by an off-duty ICE agent in L.A.
Oh, it's
or the
fine.
family of
Don't worry about it, guys.
Villegas
It'll be fine.
Gonzalez, shot and killed in Illinois minutes after he dropped his kids off at school.
Guys, they won't come for us. We're fine. Don't worry. We're not illegal aliens. We're not illegal immigrants. You know, we're good, right? Right? That's how fascism works. We just don't got to worry about other people. Because, you know, they're not us. That's what they want you to think. But remember, you're not free unless these people are free too. These people cannot be put away. In my opinion, even for rape and murder, in a prison and treated terribly and put in a terrible prison. No, I'm not down for that. I don't care. Like, no, I'm not okay with that.
There's no sign of any movement at the Department of Justice. You even launched a criminal investigation into Renee Good's grieving widow. How sick is that? But it's even worse. You've turned the People's Department of Justice into Trump's instrument.
See, he's smart. He says, like, the People's Department of Justice. Yeah, she's supposed to be on our side, guys. Hello?
Instrument of revenge.
Yeah,
Trump orders up prosecutions like pizza,
not fascism. Nope.
and you deliver every time. He tells you to go after James Comey, Letitia James, Lisa Cook, and Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve Board, and members of Congress like Adam Schiff.
Sorry, Mr. Raskin, but it's pretty much what he hired her for. She's literally doing her job. He knows this, of course, but...
Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotkin, Chrissy Houlihan, Jason Crow, Chris DeLuzio, and Maggie Goodlander, to name a few, and you snap to it. You
Mr. Kelly.
Real prosecutors with counterfeit stooges who robotically do the president's bidding. Nothing in American history comes close to this complete corruption of the justice function and contamination of federal law enforcement. And the good news is many serious lawyers at DOJ, including some of your own original appointees, have refused your lawless orders. Danielle Sassoon, the original pick for acting U.S. Attorney in Manhattan, resigned rather than follow your corrupt order to quash an indictment against Mayor Eric Adams as a political favor from Donald Trump. A Federalist Society member who clerked for Justice Scalia, U.S. Attorney Sassoon refused to participate in this blatantly corrupt scheme. Her top assistant, Hagan Scotton, an Iraqi war vet and 2-time Bronze Star recipient who clerked for Chief Justice Roberts, and then Judge Kavanaugh, promptly resigned too, writing to your office, quote, "I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me."
Nice.
The president nominated Eric Siebert, a 15-year career prosecutor, to be your U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. But after
like I said, she's doing her job according to what Trump wants, and their job is to do what she's doing and not work for us.
5 months of investigating Letitia James and James Comey, he found no evidence to justify criminal charges. So you forced him out. You replaced him with Lindsay Halligan, Trump's personal lawyer from the Mar-a-Lago documents case, who had 0 prosecutorial experience and no qualifications. And then you were humiliated when a federal judge found that this corrupt appointment was blatantly unlawful and threw out Halligan's indictments entirely. And grand juries of American citizens have repeatedly rejected your vendettas and baseless indictments brought by the hacks left at DOJ now, with 2 different grand juries in Virginia voting down indictments against Letitia James in a single week. And just yesterday, another grand jury shut down your vendetta factory by rejecting indictments against the 6 members of Congress who had spoken out to remind all service members that they have a duty to refuse illegal orders. You tried to get a grand jury to indict 6 members of Congress who are veterans of our armed forces on charges of seditious conspiracy simply for exercising their First Amendment.
Like I said, she is literally the person making this shit happen. That shouldn't be happening to our citizens, you and me on the streets, folks, chatters.
Amendment rights. I hope you will heed the wisdom and the constitutional patriotism of those grand jurors and not try it again by doubling down on that humiliation. As your best lawyers are sacked for having participated in the January 6th case or just flee for the exits now, your new lawyers keep lying in court. In dozens of cases, they've been excoriated for lying to federal judges. Chief Judge Boasberg, right here in D.C., suggested your Department of Justice perpetrated a fraud on the court. Other judges found your statements to be, quote, inexplicably misleading, patently incredible, totally inconsistent, and so disingenuous that the court is left with little confidence that the government can be trusted to tell the truth about anything. Now, as ranking member, I asked the chairman to add a few extra rounds of questions today because we each have 5 hours of questions, not 5 minutes, but we're stuck with 5 minutes. That's clearly insufficient to give voice to America's victims and survivors and to demand answers about all the corruption and cover-ups that we see at DOJ right now. We've got just 1 round, so we ask you politely but firmly, Madam Attorney General, please do not waste 1 second of our precious time by evading questions, by changing the subject, or engaging in personal attacks against members of Congress. We saw your performance in the Senate, and we're not going to accept that. This isn't a game. In the Senate, you brought something with you called a burn book, a binder of smears to attack members personally for doing the people's work of oversight. Please set the burn book aside and answer our questions. And when you hear us reclaim our time, that means it's time for you to stop speaking. We only have 5 minutes, so when we reclaim our time, that means you stop. And if you don't, we will ask the chair to stop the clock and let you go on his time. The quality of justice in America depends on the character of our government. Please do your job and bring the Department of Justice back from the brink. The survivors seated behind you and the American people watching everywhere deserve a Department of Justice worthy of its name. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
So that was the beginning of the hearing. That's the leader, right? He gets up and he lays out basically, and then the other people come in and they ask her questions, and they, like he said, they get 5 minutes or whatever. And then, so now you get to see how she responds to any questions. Basically, she's just going to gaslight and you know, distract, try to run the clock out.
And I know the president did remove it, deleted it.
As you do, right?
But
I got the wrong video. Hold on. What the hell happened? Hello? Well, I don't have the video. Okay, I'll find it. Here's another situation.
How did this happen?
Hold on,
and I know the president did remove it, deleted it, but it was up for, I think, 12 hours or something like that.
So she's talking about, this is a different story. She's talking about the AI video that Trump put up that had, you know, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama as monkeys. Like the most disgusting. Yeah.
How did this happen?
I think that's what she's talking about.
Can you really throw a staffer under the bus for this?
Yep, you heard that right. Even Laura Ingraham, of all people, is struggling to run cover for Trump's racism. Cue professional liar, Carolyn Levitt.
Well, look, Laura, you know, it was a meme that was posted by a staffer on the president's Truth Social account. It was from a Lion King video depicting, as you pointed out, different Democrats as different animals. I think.
Guys, it's just a meme. Come on. Like, can a president be racist? Like, give me a break.
Kamala Harris was depicted as a turtle in this video meme. The president did take it down. He spoke with lawmakers.
Yeah, Kamala Harris is a turtle. Actually, wow. I mean, that's not racist, necessarily. It's not like making Barack Obama and Michelle Obama actual monkeys. Are you fucking kidding me, Carolyn?
Makers today out of respect for them, including Senator Tim Scott. The post was removed, but leave it to the leftist media, of course, to talk about this all day, rather than talk about the fact that the Dow has broken over 50.
Oh yeah, guess what? Your 401k's up. Stop paying attention to the oppression in the streets. What are you doing? Don't pay attention to the memes, the racist memes. They're going away.
50,000 points for the first time in our nation's history, rather than talk about what President Trump did last night, launching TrumpRx.gov, which is the first of its kind, amazing, beautiful website.
It's a big, beautiful website. That's right. And you can get all your drugs on it and everything you ever wanted it at low Canadian prices. It's actually true. It's kind of funny, but like, what does it all go to a crypto wallet? I guarantee you. What is happening?
For direct-to-consumer drug purchases. Well, look, I won't get ahead of the president, Laura, and he may be speaking with the press later today, but he did take down the post. And again, this is merely a distraction for the fake news media from TrumpRx last night, from the fact that this week it was revealed 0 illegal aliens were released into our country again for 9 months in a row. Another
0 illegal aliens
of this administration.
I'm so
the
happy.
Fact that this week we saw the data murder rates in this country, the lowest since 1900. I mean, these are unbelievable results on behalf of all Americans, regardless of race, religion, or creed, whether they live in a red state or a blue state. And we fight extremely hard here every single day to get the fake news media to pay attention to the wins and the achievements that I see this president firsthand working around the clock to accomplish and to deliver on behalf of this great country, which he loves so much.
Look, there is no reasonable...
Yeah, she's like, I worked so hard trying to make you guys see delusional things. I'm getting tired of having to push back. Just accept what I say. Jesus Christ, my lies you should be accepting them.
Person out there that should have been surprised to see Donald Trump's posting something like that, racist AI slop video, and how Levitt and other prominent members of MAGA world have been hand-waving away all of the valid criticism. But it is surprising that someone who peddles in white supremacy like Laura Ingraham felt obligated to at least pretend to hold Levitt to the fire with her initial question and this follow-up too.
It's phenomenal news. Actual solutions to problems that other politicians have kicked down the road for years and years. But, it's not just Democrats. There are Republican senators, Pete Ricketts, others saying, look, we understand it was this, but the president should just come out and apologize for it and say, look, this was a mistake. Sorry if it offended anyone. Why not?
What is equally surprising is the number of elected Republicans who have publicly criticized the post and the administration's response to the backlash.
South Carolina Republican Tim Scott, an ally of the Trump White House, said this: praying it was fake because it's the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House. The president should remove it. New York Congressman Mike Lawler, incredibly offensive. Mississippi Senator Roger Wicker, totally unacceptable. Nebraska Senator Pete Ricketts, a reasonable person sees the racist context. Maine Senator Susan Collins, appalling.
I don't believe that, for one, Donald Trump didn't post this himself, and I'm glad that you did the reporting because they were specific. If a lower level, and I'll tell you, if a lower level staffer had indeed done that, then it would have been very easy for the White House press secretary, Caroline Levitt, to immediately denounce it. Well, she did not. And the only reason that I could think of that she doubled down on it, she didn't just say that it was, fake outrage. She said that there are other things that the American people should be concerned about. You would not say that if it were a lower level staffer, because it's very easy to throw a lower level staffer under the bus.
The reason we are seeing these responses now, it has nothing to do with a sudden discovery of moral clarity. Now, the midterms are approaching. The country is reeling from the dehumanizing and racist policies of ICE and this administration. And everyday people, including everyday Republicans, they've had enough. This is political pressure, not principle. And this is also, well, there's no getting around the power of this image. You can ignore dog whistles, you can rationalize policy, but you cannot unsee this. America's first Black president, first Black first lady, depicted as apes. That visual forces a confrontation with the core of what this movement is, even for people who have spent years benefiting from and defending white privilege. That is why the deflections are failing.
That's crazy.
Not because the racism is new, but because it is undeniable. But let's be clear about what this is not. This is not a turning point. It will not be one until Republicans do more than issue carefully worded statements. It will not matter until the only Black Republican Senator, Tim Scott, and his white counterparts stop supporting a man who is living, breathing racism. Not just calling out a post, but rejecting the pattern, the policies, and the person himself. Until that happens, this is all performance. You can wake me up when that changes.
Yeah, please.
I want to be clear that this behavior is what we've seen from President Trump and the Trump administration through its countless racist policies, rolling back the efforts of diversity, equity, inclusion, deployment of the National Guard and ICE. These are all distractions that are reshaping the role of government, especially every time we see more and more information about President Trump and the Epstein files. These distractions are distractions from a failed economy where Black unemployment has increased while President Trump and his friends continue to get rich. This is unacceptable behavior in America. We see this obsession with Representative Ilhan Omar and the remarks that he's made towards her, as well as other immigrants, right? Immigrants are a part of the fabric of America. It's important for us to understand and recognize their role here and what they've done to contribute to help build America. Recognizing that this is an issue all across this nation.
Yeah.
Where we see that they're coming from a certain subset of group. They're coming for all of us. Right?
For sure.
And this 100th anniversary of Black History Month,
he agrees.
We have to double down and tell the truth and tell what is history, what are the lies, as this administration continues to retell the truth, remove history from our areas or our sanctities or our museums, right? We see that this administration is continuing to perpetuate lies.
So no, this is not the straw that broke the camel's back. This is a reminder of how high the bar is for racism to even be acknowledged in this country, let alone rejected. It shows how much damage has to be done before political self-preservation kicks in. And it confirms what many people already know. As long as racism serves power, it will continue to be excused until the cost of defending it finally outweighs the benefit.
Hello, everybody. David CHEWSDAY here. Thanks for watching. If you found this reporting and commentary valuable, do us a favor.
like you don't.
And tap the like button. For more content like this, hit the.
You don't really want to like admit when you're wrong ever, right? That's a thing. I get that. I understand why people are like that. It's hard to admit when you're wrong. But in certain cases, you owe it to the constituents to admit when you're wrong. In most cases, it's a different scenario, right?
Here's a Republican senator's reaction to having learned a bit more about the files.
I've not been one of the members who has glommed onto this as an issue. I've sort of intentionally deferred to others.
Why?
To find out about it.
Why?
But 9-year-old victims.
I'm sorry. You're like, oh, you know, it was fine when it was 12-year-olds, but 9? Man, I don't understand people.
Yes. Well, initially, my reaction to all this was, I don't care. I don't know what the big deal is. But now, I see what the big deal is, and it was worth investigating, and the members of Congress that have been...
I'm sorry. She's like, yeah, I ignored it. Like, she just ignored. She said, I chose to ignore the biggest child sex trafficking scheme ever and, come up with in the world, literally run by this guy, that involved billionaires that are still in power and are now running our country. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to get over here in my office. Vote these people out. I don't care if they're Democrats, Republicans, or the most liberal person. If they're doing this, they're not going to be taking care of you, okay? This is bullshit.
Pushing this. We're not wrong.
As a Republican from the very red state of Wyoming, where
what she meant to say is, I kept my mouth shut because I'm a woman and a Republican, and I know my place. Not that that's not what I'm saying. That's what she should have said. I know my place under the Republican establishment, and that's to shut up. Like, what?
MAGA runs strong. So when she says she didn't want to look at it, or she deferred to others, the politics of that we all know. She may have been in a place where even acknowledging this was worth looking at, let alone a
We'll acknowledge that? No, I'm not acknowledging that anymore. I'm not going to go, oh, yeah, I understand. No, that's a liberal take. Okay, that's what he's going to have. If he has that take, that's a liberal take. No. The take now is what I said. I'm sorry.
Problem, including the Trump DOJ's oversight.
No.
Well, that may have been hard. And now, after all this, if you want to take her at her word, she is discovering it is a big deal and worth investigating.
Okay, he's not. He's not buying it either. So,
when she talks about the lawmakers who did push this, she's referring to people like Massey and Khanna from both parties. And here was Khanna after going in to look at the unredacted files.
There were 6 wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason.
Who are they?
When Congressman Massey and I pointed this out to the Department of Justice, they acknowledged their mistake. And now they have revealed the identity of these 6 powerful men. Now, my question is, why did it take Thomas Massey and me going to the Justice Department to get these 6 men's identities to become public? And if we found 6 men that they were hiding in 2 hours,
what the hell, Chad?
Imagine how many men they are covering up for in those 3 million files.
In that sense, the people who pushed to get the files out are now doing the work of going through them, as I mentioned. That's Khanna. We reached out from MS Now to each of those named individuals. One, Wexner's legal representative responded, saying he was told by the DOJ he was viewed as a source of information about Epstein and was not, the lawyer says, viewed as a criminal target. First on Lutnick, because it reflects how many powerful people seem to be lying about this, even though in fairness, we discussed in our reporting what is and is not alleged. Does it matter that he lied for so long? Does it matter that the president doesn't see this as any kind of issue?
Well, let's just remember, he's a cabinet secretary. So I think that sort of answers that question. Is the public entitled to the truth from somebody who is not just in the government, who works for us, but is at that high level in the government?
Yep.
And
what's the purpose of that person?
I guess I'm enough of a Puritan that my view is, of course we are, and we only have ourselves to blame if we let it slide. And again, I take the reporting that he did not, or there's no evidence that he did anything wrong with Mr. Epstein. I'm basing it solely on the fact that he very loudly and publicly claimed that he disassociated himself with Mr. Epstein, and we now know that is not true. And we're entitled to more from our public officials. And frankly, the higher up you are, the more responsible you are to be candid with the public.
And the big questions are whether the process as it's supposed to work, people investigate crimes. You've overseen all kinds of such projects. And then it goes forward rather than what, by the way, this administration in other contexts has been accused of, which is cherry picking what they want to attack and letting other crimes go quite dangerously in the politicization of DOJ. In that context, Pam Bondi very infamously said there was nothing else to see and no possible blackmail evidence. Lutnick, before today's confession, had been talking publicly about Epstein being a blackmailer. Take a look.
That's what his MO was, get a massage. And what happened in that massage room, I assume, was on video. This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever. Blackmailed people. That's how he had money.
Andrew?
Let's just remember that with Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche saying there's nothing to see here, that meant that they had seen and reviewed the evidence that you're reporting that the evidence that they said there's nothing to see here, that meant knew that what a cabinet secretary was saying about disassociating himself with Jeffrey Epstein was not true. These reporting in the files of Donald Trump saying that he was very aware in the early 2000s that Jeffrey Epstein had been engaged in this kind of conduct, and they knew that he had said the opposite publicly. So to me, just remember, this is news to us. It is not news to the FBI and DOJ and Pam Bondi representing and Todd Blanche representing to us that there's nothing to see here. So for everything that when you're saying this is new and look at this and this shows X, Y, and Z, just remember that is information that the government was aware of when they said nothing to see here, we're not doing anything.
And so should they have looked deeper at what is described as a surveillance system, the clear efforts to create these videos? Do you think that they've released all the videos that they had?
No, so I think there's no question they have not done enough, and I think Congress needs to pick up the slack. One of the reasons I say that is Todd Blanche, in defending his sort of softball questions for Ghislaine Maxwell, said, well, just remember, we didn't have all of those emails. For instance, the emails between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, where Jeffrey Epstein says, we haven't heard from Donald Trump. He's the dog that didn't bark. And she responds essentially saying, I was thinking the same thing. And he said, well, I didn't have that. We didn't get that. So to me, what Congress needs to do is find out what is the nature of the investigation, what was done, what was not done. That, by the way, may cross Republican and Democratic administrations. So be it. This is what it means to do an impartial, unbiased investigation.
We don't care.
But they should call prosecutors. They should call agents. To your point, they could call the staff of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to find out where they interviewed, what information they have, and they can immunize Ghislaine Maxwell because she has taken the fifth, and there's a way to force her to actually testify, which prosecutors know, Congress knows. They can immunize her, and that takes away her Fifth Amendment, and then she has to answer questions. So if Congress really wanted to know the answers to her questions, they have the tools.
Want him. Want to do it.
God bless America. Sea Chile, Argentina,
What is happening, dude?
Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Brasil, Colombia,
Or killed Rock.
Guyana, Panamá, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, México, Cuba, República Dominicana, Jamaica, Haití, las Antillas, United States, Canadá,
Antigua.
a my motherland, mi patria, Puerto Rico.
Mi barrio.
Seguimos aquí.
Puerto Rico.
It was awesome. Even if you didn't understand a word of it, it made you smile, made you dance. Hi again, everybody. It's 5 o'clock now in New York. What an uplifting end to a really amazing...
I'm sorry, but... Well, he just said there was all English. Except for a couple of words. Like, if you listen, you could understand what he is saying.
performance. You heard Bad Bunny there, God bless America, he said during his Super Bowl halftime show. Behind him on the Jumbotron, you couldn't miss it. It said, the only thing more powerful than hate is love. And on the football, he was carrying Together We Are America. Inspiring, positive, dare we say, patriotic, evidently. Not for Donald Trump and his crew. No, for them. In the course of their performative outrage today, what we just watched was somehow, some way, an insult to who, we're not clear. For them, Bad Bunny's 13-minute tribute to togetherness.
To America, the great America, making America great. You can't have him. You can't have a Bad Bunny running around. Those Bad Bunnies, they put a wrench in the gears every time. Huh? Fucking restart in the middle of a stream? Are you insane, Windows 11?
Performance and culture.
It's time to restart.
Laden with political messaging and anti-MAGA
GPU
stuff.
at 100%.
And then there was this complaint.
Is it too much to ask to put it in English? I mean, just can we put it in English?
Most of it.
And you know, unrelated to what we just saw from Brian Kilmeade, old guys often choke on, you know, just their breakfast. I'm just saying. I mean, you know, sometimes they're racists too. It just happens. I'm just saying that's reality. Unrelated to what we just saw.
Obviously, not even in English. You have Forbes magazine with an article titled, quote, "What did Bad Bunny say at the Super Bowl halftime show?" Great question.
Not one word of English?
Yeah.
Not one word of English? One word!
One word of English!
It's so funny because when they played Tucker Carlson's
There was words of English.
Clips from the Putin interviews, I checked and none of those guys ever complain that none of the words are in English. But I digress.
Oh.
For the record, God bless America is 3 words in English. But the point is, what wasn't enough for MAGA, figures who alternated between insisting, oh, we didn't watch it, to we watched all of it because that's the only way we know that none of the words were in English. Donald Trump himself watched it. Poor Kid Rock. Never thought I'd say that. And ranted and raved on social media about it.
It was the worst.
Terrible. One of the worst ever.
Nobody understands a word this guy is saying.
Does anyone listen to a Trump
And the
speech
dancing
like
is disgusting.
And then Trump said this about the dance.
I hate seeing penises flop around. Please stop.
Yeah.
It was, quote, disgusting. He called the performance a slap in the face of our country. Again, this guy is in, according to Danny Bensky, the Epstein files, more than Harry Potter's in Harry Potter. But the dancing, it's quite a review for someone who's refusing to apologize for posting a now deleted and blatantly racist video portraying President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama as apes. From the New York Times, quote,
I didn't make a mistake.
Reporters on Air Force One Friday, Trump said he only saw the beginning of that video. Quote, I just looked at the first part, and it was about voter fraud in some place. Georgia, maybe? Trump said, quote, I didn't see the whole thing. Then tried to deflect blame, suggesting he had given the link to someone else to post. Quote, I gave it to the people. Generally, they'd look at the whole thing, but I guess somebody didn't, he told reporters. It was like 2 a.m, so yeah.
He didn't give it to the people.
Still, Trump offered no contrition when pressed. No, I didn't make a mistake, he said. Competing definitions of what exactly constitutes a slap in the face to our nation is where we begin the hour with some of our most favorite reporters and friends. National political reporter for The Bulwark, Adrian Carrasquillo is here. Also with us, Princeton University professor, political analyst Eddie Glad is here. And Molly John Fast is back, host of Fast Politics, a New York Times contributing opinion writer. Adrian, I actually thought of you last night, and I didn't want to ruin whatever, you know, vibe you have, but I wanted to hear your review. Was it everything that we talked about Friday, everything you hoped it would be?
Yeah, it was everything I hoped it would be. I just had this like permanent smile on my face the entire time. But I do sort of hate that everything in my mind goes back to politics. I was like, oh man, MAGA's hating this. Oh, they're hating this moment. But it was joy. And I think it goes partly to some of the stuff we've talked about, which is that the Grammys was his sort of explicit, like, do you need a statement from me? Here's my statement. Here's how I feel.
Yeah.
And then the Super Bowl was allowed to be his art, and it was allowed to be fun and celebratory, people dancing. What I took away from it was that he's affirming our humanity at a time when this administration is denying our humanity. And that goes for Latinos, that goes for immigrants, that goes for US citizens. And so that there's clearly it goes completely against what MAGA is into, and they are offended by the fabric of every piece of his performance. But you could see the way that he was speaking to America and saying that together, we're stronger, and that unity. It was a really powerful message.
I didn't think about MAGA. I thought about the NFL, and I thought about Goodell, and I thought about Colin Kaepernick, and I thought about this choice from the NFL, right? Like Bad Bunny didn't pick himself. He was chosen by the NFL with all these MAGA owners.
Yeah.
And they seemed really into it. I want to show you, this is the video of the embrace. I think we have that. We'll find it. But just talk about why the NFL sided with Bad Bunny over, the MAGAtron, MAGA world, whatever we're calling MAGA.
I was thinking about this today. You go back to last February and last year, and there were so many.
Of course, he's going to hug the guy that paid him.
Firms, universities that were just cowing to this administration, so afraid of it. Well, it turns out if the people aren't with MAGA, as polls show that they're going against a lot of issues, their view of the economy and immigration and things like that. Well, then all they have is fear. And that's why they're so upset, and they don't want people to be into something like this performance that dares to say love is the only thing more powerful than hate, And so for all those reasons, and like we said, it was a party, it was fun, it was a good time, and not whatever they did as their counter programming.
Okay, so this, ding, 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 this. Okay, so the people have driven the culture. Sports is responding to the culture, responding to the people. And as Halman always says, politics is downstream from culture. You've now lost the people who have put steel in the spine of culture, who have put steel in the spine of sports, who now, I think, prove. And let me put up some of the Olympians. I mean, this is happening every day in Italy since the Olympics started last week. This is athletes. This is Hunter Hess. Let me show you this.
It brings up mixed emotions to represent the U.S. right now, I think. It's a little hard. There's obviously a lot going on that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think a lot of people aren't. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything that's going on in the U.S.
And then New York Times reports that Chloe Kim, Eileen Gu spoke out after Trump called Hunter a loser. He said, quote, "I'm sorry that the headline that is eclipsing the Olympics has to be something so unrelated to the spirit of the games. It really runs contrary to everything the Olympics should be. The whole point of sports is to bring people together. One of the very few common languages, that of the human body, that of the human spirit, the competitive spirit, the capacity to break not only records, but especially in our sport, literally the human limit." How wonderful is that? That all these folks who have nothing to gain, right, by sticking their toe into politics are more brave than the law firms, than the universities that capitulated, than the tech. I need a forum where I can swear. We're going to do that soon, right? The tech stood shoulder to shoulder with no shame with Donald Trump.
I'll swear for you.
Who showed up at the White House in a tuxedo the day after the second American citizen was killed in the streets of Minneapolis. This all emanates from the courage that the people, it started in Minneapolis, it's gone coast to coast, have displayed in the face of Donald Trump.
Culture is the site of contestation. It's the argument. It's the space where we work out who we are. It's the space where we live who we are, right? You can have an idea of what America is, right? And it could look like what MAGA thinks it looks like. But then you run up against our actual lives. Right? You might be in some rural town in Iowa.
Like I said, we live in a society.
Right? If you live in the cosmopolitan spaces of the United States, what we saw last night, what we heard last night, it wasn't so unfamiliar to us. So culture is this complicated space. And sometimes arguments bubble up. Sometimes arguments evidence themselves in very ways. Sometimes culture can bounce back and push back. That's not who we are in so many ways, right? But also culture is complicated because the NFL understands its growth market. It's clear, right? So yes, there's all of this stuff going on.
It's all about the Benjamins.
Taking a knee could hurt the bottom line.
All about the
This
Benjamins.
is the most streamed artist in the world. And if there's expansion possible, we might be going into these Spanish-speaking countries in so many ways. So we don't want to overread it in some ways, but we also want to understand it as the site of, how can I put it, the way in which America actually lives. It's the mess, the messiness.
30% of California is Spanish speaking, like something like that, right? Like, I mean,
presenting his, bouffant and his orange skin as an apex figure in our culture. It is a sign that he is not more powerful than Bad Bunny. He is not more powerful than the NFL. It is a puncturing of what he's projecting as his power.
That creates a sense of terror, right? A panic that flows from that we are not who we say we are. There's this wonderful line that James Baldwin often pushes. He says, we need to crack open the image of America to see what it hides and obscures. And most of the time, what's happening and obscuring is a panic around the lie that actually informs the bouffant, actually, because deep down, you can hear the diversity on our tongue. You can taste it in our food. You can hear it in the sound.
Hear it, can't escape it.
Whatever makes
California
America swing is rooted in the diversity that makes this place unique. We're like no other place in the Western world.
Okay, dude. Okay, here's some more news from the Guthrie situation. Looks like there's some more information. We'll see.
She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. If you see anything, you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation. And we need your help.
So that was late Monday afternoon. This is Wednesday morning, day 11 in the search for Nancy Guthrie. My next guest says he and his team has finally seen activity in a Bitcoin account tied to possibly a ransom note sent to news outlets in Arizona. TMZ founder Harvey Levin's with me now. And Harvey, good morning to you. Terrific work from the very beginning on this. Your outlet received an original letter. You did not receive a second letter where another affiliate did. So by my count, that's 2 letters. And you now report that TMZ has just been sent a third letter. Please explain and describe what you got about 90 minutes ago.
So an hour and a half ago, we got kind of a bizarre letter, an email from somebody who says they know who the kidnapper is and that they have tried reaching Savannah's sister, Annie, and Savannah's brother to no avail. And they said they want 1 Bitcoin sent to a Bitcoin address that we have confirmed is active. It's a real Bitcoin address. As they put it, time is more than relevant. So we have no idea whether this is real or not, but they are making a demand. It's interesting that, Bitcoins fluctuate in value, but it's around $56,000 now, 1 Bitcoin, which is about the amount that the authorities are offering for information leading to the return of Nancy. So I don't know if that aligns, but whoever sent this, and they actually give a name and an email address, but whoever sent this is asking for around that amount via Bitcoin for information that they say leads directly to the person.
Let's take it a step at a time here, Harvey. Take me back to the original letter. I believe you were the one who said, whoever wrote that letter, I don't think you used the word meticulous, but I'll use that word, suggesting that the grammar was right, the letter was very specific about the requests and the demands. Does this letter have the same form that you saw the first time around?
No, and I don't think this person is purporting to be that person. Okay. This person is purporting to be someone who probably wrote that first letter. If the FBI's operating theory is right, that they are going on the assumption that the person who wrote this note took Nancy. And so they're not saying they're the kidnappers. They're saying they know who the kidnapper is and will give that information up for 1 Bitcoin. Okay. And again, we looked at this address. It's a pretty bold thing that the address is real.
Okay, there were 2 other Arizona affiliates in Tucson, KGU and 9.
They did offer that amount of money.
Did they also receive the same note? Or do you
I don't know. We haven't talked to them.
All right, now,
we have sent, just, you know, Bill, we've sent this on to the FBI already.
Okay, confirmed on that. I watched your interview last night with Sean. You were very careful as to what you said, and I respect that and the contact that you have with authorities. There was, late last night, there was a Bitcoin address that had $6 million deposited in it. I don't know if that's real or a ruse, but I'm sure you know of it. When you looked at that address, did it match what you saw in letter number 1 from several days ago?
I am not comfortable commenting on this.
Okay, so then it's possible.
What the fuck?
That the Bitcoin address that was requested turned out to be this particular one. And that would
wouldn't read anything. I wouldn't read anything into this.
Okay, so if the suggestion that money was paid may not necessarily be the case. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. When you watch the camera video that was sent out yesterday, does it make sense for you as to why the FBI would give you this image and that image, but they would not give us the image of the camera being ripped away? And based on some inside reporting, it's been suggested that whoever was standing in front of that door took the doorbell camera with them. It seems to me if they were familiar with that house, they would have known there was a camera there when they approached it. And this whole idea about taking these flowers and sticking over the camera lens, it seems a little foolhardy to me. And if you're right about the initial letter, that they were so careful in the way they constructed the letter itself, this wouldn't match the meticulous nature of that first individual. How do we make sense of that, Harvey?
You see it exactly the way I see it. I could not agree with you more the way you put it, that the just the thought that went into this letter doesn't match the thought of somebody coming up fully disguised, knowing that they don't want to be seen, and not even thinking, gee, people have these cameras on their door. You know, you don't have to even have cased her door or property to just make an assumption that she may well have a camera like that, and you should be ready to somehow block it. You know, have a piece of cardboard, have something to immediately block it. And this person walks up almost surprised that there is a camera there, and then walks over and stoops down in the garden area, grabs some shrubs. I agree with you. It just does not align.
Let me ask another question about some of the activity around Annie Guthrie's house last night. Our reporters have been there. They saw him poking around in different areas, different neighbors' yards, in the backyard.
Why is he being weird about this question?
Readily gave access to the FBI. Let me ask you an uncomfortable question. Do we know the status of the relationship between Annie and her husband?
And Annie and who?
Her husband.
Look, no. And look, I know why you're asking this, and let's just put it on the table. There have been all sorts of, you know, reports, especially on social media. People are talking about who it could be. I have absolutely no basis to even raise that. And I'm not saying it's true or not true, but I've done checking the way everybody else has, and so far I just don't have any information to give it credibility or shoot it down.
Okay, let me ask another comfortable question since we're in this area here. They have not told us after the garage door closed where the son-in-law went. The sheriff was very careful not to say who dropped her off, but it's been reported that it was the son-in-law. And is there any reporting after that they've been able to track where that vehicle went when they left her home?
That's crazy.
They did.
That's crazy, Chad.
I'm not privy to that information. I don't know.
He's lying.
I'm only going to say what
Liar.
I know, and I just don't know.
Okay, understood.
He double blinked again.
On that, one last thing. This $300 that was deposited last night that you were talking about with Sean, has that gone anywhere since that was reported last night by you?
I have never said an amount, and there is a reason I haven't said an amount, and I am going to stick to that regardless of what anybody else has said. There are reasons behind why I'm saying that, but I gave my word on something, and I don't want to impede this in any way. And I'm going to stick to what I said, which is simply that there was activity, and I'm not going to say more about what the activity is.
I respect that. Like that. Last question then. Do you believe they're onto something here, or do you believe they're closer to a dead end?
Well, look, yes, that they have avenues that they are pursuing. I know this. I know this on one count, absolutely, and on a second count, look, he is dressed head to toe in various items, and I am sure that the and I will say one other thing, Bill, that they
found his clothes.
Law enforcement has told me they are operating under the theory that this person lives in the Tucson television area, and that's why they've had so much contact with the local television stations there. So I am assuming at this point, and I don't think this is a leap of faith, that they are contacting anybody who, while you're showing the glove there, anybody who might have sold a glove like that, who may have sold a backpack like that, may have sold a sweatshirt like that, pants like that, anything, that they are contacting them, because we have seen time after time that one of the ways they catch people is that they will find somebody who bought something 2 weeks ago, and they look at the surveillance video of who's in the store. Even if they paid cash, they have a time on what to look for and who goes to the cash register with the item and walks out. And that happens all the time in law enforcement. So I think what he's wearing, aside from the fact that somebody may be familiar with it, they are going to try to find out who bought it. And if they bought it within a fairly narrow time frame before this, because these are not things that I would think people just ordinarily have. I mean, the gloves are bizarre. So
it's a very
I would think
distinct
they are
walk
contacting
too. It
all
seems like it'd
sorts
be
of,
very easy to
establishments. They would probably
it'd be
contact
very easy to identify
manufacturers,
him once you
but
got him.
certainly retailers, and then to see if you can nail down
He has a particular
who bought
shuffle
something
about
like
his
that,
walk.
and then look at surveillance video, and that tells a whole story, because
he's kind of like
whoever
walking
bought that
sideways
did not
a little
walk
bit.
in looking like that.
Harvey, how much more time do you have? I'm told that you have a deadline here. Can you still talk with us?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to bring in my colleague Dana, and let's go ahead and open this discussion up. And I really want to drill down on what you told Sean last night. You said when that first letter arrived, you read it. This is a really intelligent person who knows how to express the thought. They have thought this out. They cover everything they need to cover. That's a very intriguing answer. Can you take that a step further?
Well, yeah. I mean, and we've been saying this for days now, that I would assume, I mean, if I were putting an APB out, and I'm not law enforcement, but if I were putting an APB out, I would ask people in the Tucson area, do you know anybody who is intelligent, who is tech savvy? And now you can say someone with a somewhat stocky build, with a mustache,
medium
and a
35
beard and or goatee.
He feels like 35 to 40.
Somebody who has just gone MIA over the last week. because I'm assuming this person is not walking around in public. And to me, you know, that's a clue, because I think all of those things align. And, you know, reading that first note, I think it is an intelligent person. I think it is a tech-savvy person, because we were on the phone with the FBI a couple hours after we got the letter, and everybody was trying, including my IT team, trying to figure out something about who sent it, and we hit a dead end. So it's somebody tech-savvy, and, you know, that's at least an avenue to go. But, you know, there may be something with a Bitcoin. There may be something with, you know, that kind of description, you know, in terms of a lead. There may be something in terms of tracking down who was wearing something like that in the past, or whether it was purchased. So there are avenues they are clearly going down to try and figure out who this is.
Okay, Harvey. More to come. Appreciate you sharing what you have. Thank you, Harvey, from TMZ.
Sure, Bill.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Compon.
You have this.
Guys, I'm watching YouTube videos and making more YouTube videos out of them. That's right. That's how this works.
New piece out in New York Magazine all about Nancy Mace. Can you remind me the name of it? Because it's got a great name.
Yeah, the headline is Nancy Mace is not okay.
We knew that, chat.
She is not okay. And you explain why. And I'm going to play her response because she calls this a hit piece.
Oh boy, well, which one? I guess I'll find out.
Well, let's just, okay, she preempted this article coming out. Here's what she said.
All the establishment is coming after me again. This time, New York Magazine is writing the next national.
Why are you in a
piece
corner?
against me. Apparently, if you don't take the advice of overpaid consultants, you need some kind of a diagnosis because you have an affliction. The whole thing is just sort of silly, but that's what the establishment does when you don't conform or follow their rules. And if I have enemies, good, get in line. It means I've done something. It means I've stood for something. My values and my principles, and because I listen to you, the people. I don't listen to anybody else. I've never been a good old boy. I never will be. And doing the same thing we've always done is what got us into this mess.
Oh,
What
God.
the
Okay.
fuck was
so
that?
We just have to, the music is
What
too
is
much.
I enjoyed the music personally.
It just like the hero music, and she's saying this is because she's anti-establishment. She's not going to have overpaid consultants. Jake, as you report, she does not have a chief of staff anymore or a campaign manager. And it seems like she is still running for governor of South Carolina. So I just want to kick it to you because I am just curious, who is Nancy Mace? Where did she come from? And how long has she been where she is?
So Nancy Mace has been in Congress for 3 terms now.
Why does zoom in on the tits? Hello?
Came onto the scene really for the 2020 election, gets to Congress right before January 6th happens. And at the time, she's kind of fashioning herself as sort of like a maverick, sort of like a kind of never Trump Republican, kind of like a John McCain type. She's chill with LGBT issues.
Yeah, she's like
she advocated
acting like
when she was in the
Fetterman.
South Carolina state legislature for exceptions for incest and an abortion law, and basically it was only her and Democrats on that.
Yeah.
Now, weirdly, a lot of the coverage leaves out that Nancy Mace actually worked for the Trump campaign in 2016 and got fired. And yeah,
Whoa.
So some of my sources,
Full bar.
yeah, some of my sources think that the reason involved something to do with
A lot of
stealing
people got
data
fired
or
in
email
16.
lists. I think I know people who would know from that campaign, but I didn't talk to them for this story, and that kind of became like a
A
secondary.
lot of
thing
people
that, like, didn't make
got
it in.
fired in 16.
So she gets to Congress, and then January 6th happens, and a scoop that I had at the Daily Beast was that she wanted to basically go down to the floor of the House while it's getting ransacked by the rioters and the QAnon shaman or whatever. And she wanted to engage them so that she would, quote, get punched in the face to get media attention.
Right.
And that kind of like gives you what you need to know about this lady early on, which is, on the one hand, she kind of has a lot of like natural talents. People like an old school Chris Matthews type or whatever.
Yeah.
They would use that term political athlete, which
Yes.
we don't really, certainly no one my age in politics journalism uses that term. But I think it
Yeah.
does kind of describe in the best way like what
He's
someone
kinda
like
right,
Nancy is,
yeah.
which is that she does have like an energy and a charisma that you really can't teach a candidate. And that's why a lot
Right.
of Republicans saw a ton of promise in her early on in her career. She was the first woman to graduate from the undergraduate program at the Citadel, which is a military college that was traditionally all male in South Carolina. Also, notable footnote on that, her father just so happened to be the headmaster while she was there. And there was also another woman who was the first woman to attend the undergraduate program.
That's
who
cool, though.
Really kind of paved the way for Nancy in a lot of ways. Through court cases and whatever, and that woman faced a ton of harassment and backlash and ended up withdrawing from the school like right after it had started. So,
weird. What?
She's a high school dropout, and I think actually had a really gnarly stretch in her teenage years where she was sexually assaulted. A friend of hers died in a pretty horrific car accident. So she's out of high school. She starts working in a Waffle House, which has kind of like resurfaced more in her. Campaign messaging. And then she ends up at the Citadel.
Which is very funny because it's a little bit like Nancy Mace increasingly seems to have Waffle House energy as you report. Like there's a lot going on that can kind of be explained maybe by the time working at Waffle House. I will just point out, this sounds rough, but also her family was clearly had money.
Yeah, and she doesn't talk about her folks a lot. I know that she is still in touch with them. There's no like estrangement going on there, but yeah, I mean, I think it was a tough juncture.
Doesn't mean she has money.
She was going to sort of toughen up and learn discipline. At the Citadel, but I actually think that period in her life explains a lot of her core personality, which is when she's there as the only woman. I've heard her describe this kind of general scene to a friend, where every room she goes in or she's going to the cafeteria or whatever, all the dudes would just kind of like move away and she would always be sitting by herself. So very early on, she's dealing with a lot of not just attention, but negative attention. I would have chat with her. A lot of male attention and dealing with like, okay, how do I use this to my advantage? Right. She actually got into politics kind of a little later in her career. She got a master's in journalism and comms at Georgia. She actually had a stint working for this local outlet in South Carolina that I really like called Fitz News. I think it's one of the only conservative publications that actually has like legit news and scoop chops, and they're kind of tabloidy. They've really come back to bite her as they cover all this drama in her life extensively, and they get a lot of dirt in South Carolina politics where pretty much
used
everyone
to be working
plays
for
dirty.
them. That's funny.
Right. Can I just, so she comes as this sort of like anti-MAGA Republican, a little John McCain-y, but she absolutely pivots. I mean, we know Nancy Mace for leading all of these, just vitriolic anti-trans bills.
Yeah,
she's freaking out. She's doing stunt after stunt. She seems to embrace MAGA deeply, especially during the Biden years, or after Trump is elected. Can you explain to me also, this turn, and then you talked to former staffers of hers. What was she like? How did she treat them? And how much did she actually drink?
Okay. Well, so to start with the flip-flopping and her very weird arc in Trump world, basically the whole image that we just described starts to change really when the redistricting of her congressional district happens. So a high percentage, I think it was around 60% of the black voters in Charleston end up getting chopped off from this district.
Okay.
In a class, we're talking some classic cracking and packing for, those of you who study gerrymandering and, AP history or whatever. So suddenly her district gets way more conservative and red, and she needs to worry about fending off potential primary challengers. And that's where, you really need to embrace the MAGA agenda whole hog, or your job is really at risk. And she kind of saw an in there because she, at the time, had some decent connections in Trump's orbit and did have the cred of working on the campaign in 2016. And if you remind the president of that enough, it can work for your advantage.
Right.
Now, things start to get a little off the rails for her when I talked to former staffers, when she turned on Kevin McCarthy and was one of the Republicans who voted to oust him in the speaker vote. And that's how he ended up with Mike Johnson. Notably, the last bill that was passed on the House floor under McCarthy was the Nancy Mace Cybersecurity Act. So this was like a big deal in terms of trust just among the House Republican conference, because suddenly all these guys are like, whoa, like, you know, in the words of one of these former staffers I talked to, he was like using of all things, a Bill Maher-ism, where Bill Maher once said that Trump, you know, plays a crazy person on TV, but when Bill Maher went to visit him at Mar-a-Lago, he realized that like privately he was a more or less reasonable guy. That's what this former staffer thought they were signing up for with Nancy Mace, that she just played a crazy lady on TV, but she was actually strategic and reasonable and talented and an up and comer. And, you know, if she just listened to the right advice from the staff, they could be on something, you know, a real special run here.
Right.
Then after the McCarthy vote, people are like, okay, that didn't work in your favor. She starts to have a big wave of turnover in her office. And the real turning point in terms of like the baseline levels of Nancy Mace chaos and this kind of new level of crazy that we're dealing with now starts to happen around November of 2024, going into the early, you know, winter of 25. And that kind of culminates in this floor speech she gives. So Nancy Mace breaks up from her ex-fiance, this guy, Patrick Bryant, you know, South Carolina businessman, in that, you know, November of 24. So they split. They have a number of real estate agreements. So they co-own notably an almost $4 million house on the beach in Isle of Palm.
Holy shit.
Down in South Carolina. And the split is pretty acrimonious. And suddenly Mace decides to go nuclear, and without really telling much of her staff or advisors, goes on the House floor in February last year and levels these really insane allegations against Bryant, alleging that he not only, you know, had domestically abused and sexually assaulted her, but also was involved in this essentially a child sex trafficking ring with these other 3 guys in South Carolina.
We saw that.
You really think you know someone until you don't. In November 2023, I accidentally uncovered some of the most heinous crimes against women imaginable. These men aren't just criminals. They are predators. And you can see the names and the faces of these predators on this board to my right tonight.
So, we could go into that all day. But like,
So I played this on the show. I looked at that.
I saw it too.
It was so weird. She was clearly taking like something very personal, something that should be, if true, you know, like a criminal case against her ex-fiance. And she's taken up floor time, and she's flanked by other women. I think was it Boebert and
Anna Paulina Luna.
Anna Paulina Luna.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, Boebert less so, but like Anna Paulina Luna seems to be, I mean, have they really been that out in front on Epstein? Not so much, but like it was seen as this sort of like, Republican feminist moment.
Right.
And I remember reading that like maybe Mace like hacked her ex's phone, which look, if he's a criminal, like he's a criminal, but like, is she a hacker? Like, that's sort of where some of what I understood to be, that like she is actually very adept at like herself, like hacking phones and cybersecurity.
So this is tricky. So like her staff and people who've worked with her or advised her or whatever will tell you that she considers herself a hacker and very adept at technology, very in the kind of like a very Gen X sense.
Right.
As for her coding abilities, that's debatable. I don't want to say that she can't code, but I think that like the extent to which she can, I don't really know. She's also, you know, dabbles in AI stuff. She was briefly representing herself in this litigation with the ex-fiance and cited cases that don't exist by using ChatGPT or some other software, it would appear.
Oh, nice. Good job.
No one even knows who has this phone that she got all this, you know, this trove of what she says are damning photos and videos from. So basically what we're dealing with here is the Bryant guy had a home security system. And at one point, Mace showed a nude photo of herself during a
On
House
the
committee
House
hearing.
floor, she shows this photo of herself.
And let's pause there because there's a reason why she's doing this on the House floor, and that is the speech and debate clause of the Constitution. So theoretically, she is insulated from a libel defamation suit by virtue of saying this stuff on the House floor.
Right.
Yes.
That is the subject of a gag order that this judge has put on both her and the ex-fiance. For example, Nancy Mace tweeted out a generative AI video similar to the one that Trump did with the jet dumping the literal on No Kings protesters. She put herself in a cockpit of a similar jet and dumped a bunch of shit on her ex-fiance and tweeted it out. As one does.
I mean,
so,
it's hard. I mean, I'm a believe all women kind of gal, but this is just like what is happening right now?
It's a lot. It's a lot. And like, the folks I talked to, we're talking over a half dozen people who, either worked in her House office, have worked in her in a campaign capacity, or known her for years across the board. They are inclined to believe her on some of these allegations against Brian that, there may have been domestic abuse. She has had not just the sexual assault in high school, but also she was a survivor of an incident at the Citadel when she was in college. And combating sexual abuse and standing up for survivors and victims has been a huge part of her career. Yep. So they're not saying like that's all bullshit or anything. However, the child sex trafficking stuff and all that is a lot. There's still a dispute over whether Mace or Bryant has this phone and whether she accessed the phone legally. She claims that he gave her like a fingerprint for that era of the iPhone. He claims that she used some sort of disk drive to like strip, like had a script that stripped all of the photos, videos, metadata of this phone. And when she showed that nude on the House floor,
that's possible.
Some of my sources saw that and they're like, look, this is not, it would seem to be a peeping Tom camera. It looks like it's a security camera in the corner of a kitchen at this beach house looking at the front door. And Mace is, just walking around her house nude. Some of us, I'm one to walk around my apartment naked as well. It's a totally normal thing. But, she was sort of presenting this as like a smoking gun in that legal case. And it's just been a mess and it's become very personal for her, clearly. And that's where some of the staff are like, look, we've supported you in how you branded yourself as an advocate for victims of sexual abuse, but this is like becoming way too much about you at this point. And it's a sign of her not really listening to any advice and just kind of going off the rails in a little rogue,
Speaking of making it all about her, I mean, I did want to, some of the most salacious stuff in your piece, we're talking to Jake LaHut, who's got this new piece in the New York Magazine, all about Nancy Mace, saying Nancy Mace is not well, is how much she was obsessed with her image and made like her staff like vote up comments on Reddit about like the hottest, staffer on the Hill. Nancy Mace,
hottest women in Congress.
Hottest women in Congress. Nancy Mace, best rack in DC. I don't know if this is, we know that she created like multiple
hit a rack
like burner accounts.
Oh God, help me!
Accounts on
Look
Twitter and all this. She really was obsessed with that. She made her staffers do this kind of shit, and then also made them buy her copious amounts of alcohol.
She had a good rack on her.
What can you tell me about that?
So there, a couple of one of the scoops of stories that she had the staff make booze runs for her going back to her first term. After midnight, I think some of these staffers just had alcohol on deck in the event that there was nothing open, and they would bring her a bottle of tequila or two or whatever to keep a party going at her house. And so this wasn't just her drinking solo. And that's the thing is like, as Nancy Mace's career is kind of evolved. Yes, the sitting there with Congress, and this is ostensibly would be against House rules to have a staffer deliver you alcohol for personal reasons. But this happened frequently enough that it was known that this would fall to a certain kind of aid. And usually someone pretty junior. Her drinking became enough of a problem that some staffers really worried about it, but they didn't really always know whether what they were seeing was the result of alcohol or substance use, or if it was just her being herself. A little weird. And Mace will say stuff like she tweeted today another bit of original content on the story, a thing where she got a custom mug in the last couple days, like the last day, I don't know, that says, yes, right here, not tequila. And I should point out that New York Magazine has excellent fact checkers, and I worked with a fact checker for about a week going back to my sources and going through everything in this story, we sent the Mace camp an extremely detailed list of things that would be in the story. They sent a cease and desist letter to me and to Vox Media. And then within 48 hours of that cease and desist letter, I was on the phone with Nancy Mace, and we got her to go on the record for 2 comments.
And
so this has been all over the place.
She said that she doesn't want a chief of staff, I believe.
Yeah, she never wants to have a chief of staff or a campaign manager ever again. And then there was another one that I actually thought was somewhat self-aware and insightful about how, you know, sometimes she feels like this 16-year-old girl from her tiny hometown just trying to make it. And, you know, look, I think that a lot of what she's been going through, without getting too armchair psychologist-y about it, is some sort of trauma response. And I think it's a deep wound from that's run back a number of decades in her life. And I think that this split from Bryant, you know, we don't really know a lot of the specifics of what happened, but clearly it was a lot.
It did something. Sorry, in this tweet, by the way, she says, press should really fact check before running lies, hence your, you know, explanation there. I have a lifelong genetic affliction which prevents me from consuming much alcohol. It's called hemochromatosis. Look it up. And then she's got a mug that says not tequila on it. I mean, you can also know that she hasn't been well based on, you know, there have been multiple interactions. You talk about an instance at an airport when like she wasn't properly met by security at the, you know, in the security line or something like this. And then we've also seen like, you know, a guy filming her as a constituent going like, hey, I don't like what you're doing with trans people, or something to this effect, and she like loses her. I forgot what he said, but she like completely goes off the wall.
Yeah. Because you people on the left are crazy. So you're absolutely crazy. I'm absolutely you are, and get out of my face. You're insane. Goodbye. You're insane. You. You're gonna me. You're gonna be voted out so fast this year. I'm not. For you to not. I won by so much. You're a disgrace to the state. That's what you are.
And is like so vile and so mean, and like she. You know, I don't have sympathy. Like I don't have sympathy, you know,
That's
really for,
up. I forgot about
I have
that.
the amount of sympathy that I do for Fetterman. It's like, yeah, you defend a genocidal regime and you're a piece of shit turncoat. And Nancy Mace, you're a, you know, a transphobe psychopath who's like just such an opportunist, but like, what are you doing? Thank God she's not in the Senate, unlike Fetterman.
Well, it could be a governor of a state overseeing people's taxpayer money. I'll start real quick with the trans issues. So this is the weird thing, because she was really inclusive and open in her rhetoric about the LGBT community early in her career.
Yes.
And people who've known her for a long time are like, no, she's like a genuinely chill, open-minded person when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get weird talking about gay or trans issues, but she clearly sees it as a fundraising juggernaut and a key issue in Trump's, you know, reshaping of the party. And they, you know, they being the former Mace staffer, see it as even worse and more cynical, because they know she doesn't believe this shit. And she's, you know, effectively trying to terrorize Sarah McBride, the first trans member of Congress. And, you know, they point to Mace's turn on the trans issues as a classic example of her making it look even more unhinged than it really is to sell it, essentially. So
I mean, she's out here like saying the T word, right? She's like slurring all over the place, right? Isn't that her?
Oh yeah, no, very aggressive, talking about like checking people's genitals and stuff. It's a lot.
Yeah. Of course they're yeah, tranny.
That, unfortunately, for just reasons of space and flow and kind of like the ranking of unhinged things she's been doing, didn't make it in the story. Airport Gate is a very important thing, though, in this governor's race that she's in. So this was another scoop of mine when I was at Wired. I got an incident report from the Charleston Airport Police about Mace. And basically it was this. She shows up at the airport early in the morning to fly to D.C., which, by the way, my understanding was it was for an APAC fundraiser and not for official house business that particular time. She does not normally go through regular TSA security. She's supposed to be met by a security detail of airport police officers at a certain entrance, and she goes through the crew entrance where you get it's not as heavy as TSA security. Basically, someone on her staff gave the airport the wrong color and make of the car she was in, and then Mace went to a different entrance than was specified. And what it basically culminates in this Karen-esque rant against these airport cops. And by the way, this is during the government shutdown, so the TSA people and everyone around there, they're not getting paid, right?
Yeah.
The airport, as far as I understand it, and when you look at the videos of her starting to, go off on these agents, it's not very crowded, but she really wants the special security. Like the TSA line, from my understanding, was not that crowded. She could have gone through regular security and made her flight with this delay of meeting with the detail. But instead, she's ranting to these cops about how they're, fucking incompetent, that they wouldn't do this to Tim Scott, the black senator from South Carolina. So that's a whole loaded message and accusation.
Oh my God,
which
yes.
leads him to weigh in on this whole thing and condemn it. And then she also just had some strays directed towards an American airline gate agent. So this, I get this scoop, publish it blows up. Mace ends up continually talking about the story, which has been a recurring theme with my coverage of her throughout her career, going back to the initial burner story. And when I got this staff handbook from her office about quotas for her to appear on TV and stuff. So she starts suing the airport and American Airlines.
This has been you behind all of this. I mean, you poor soul, but also you've been breaking all this stuff. And it's so weird to have your main subject be someone who simultaneously, thinks that she's an anti-establishment person, but is obsessed with news coverage of her.
Yes, very, to a fault, probably.
Yeah.
So she sues the airport, and basically this starts to become a legitimate local issue. So she holds a couple press conferences about this. It's dominating, to a certain extent, South Carolina local TV coverage. The local papers are picking it up. And even though she has the highest name ID in this sort of crowded field, there are like 4 or 5 candidates running for governor in South Carolina on the Republican ticket, or in that primary. She goes from the front runner to polling in like 3rd or 4th, and her support falls in about half. And that's where she's at right now. Her de facto campaign manager, this guy, Austin McCubbin, who's in Trump world, a very respected operative with a lot of experience, with digital fundraising in that state, and is considered kind of a good all-in-one, campaign consultant guy.
Mm-hmm.
He quits her campaign. And by the way, on her point way earlier in the pre-buttal about, overpaid consultants, she stiffed this guy. So he can't be overpaid if she didn't pay him.
Damn.
But just
Okay. I got to move on because it's getting late.
Jank says, this is actually a fair criticism. I found one. What were the chances? I wonder if I had money on that. A weird reference to Polymarket. Also, I even got Kenneth Walker being MVP right. Brother, let me at least enjoy the rare day I get it right. So clearly he was gambling on the Super Bowl, which is funny.
Of course
Bob
he was.
Trotter follows up and says, you can thank Silly and Billy at Vanguard Pod for informing me you had sold out and renamed your studio the Polymarket Studio. So shout out to Bob Trotter for forcing Jank to acknowledge that we have rebranded under his advice to Silly and Billy, a name that if you don't know, Jank coined for us himself.
Yep, Jank originated that moniker, and it really has stuck more than just about any meme in this community. It's outlived every single one of them. And yeah, Silly and Billy, that's us here. But let's take a look at Jank's response here. He says it was a sponsorship for 6 months, a rare time a left-wing network can get a sponsorship. Bro, TYT's always had fucking sponsorships. We've talked about Aspiration Bank. We've talked about Noble Mobile. We've talked about Vivek Ramaswamy's scam healthcare company.
Chapter.
Yeah, Chapter. Like, basically, as long as I've been watching, at least post the Katzenberg cash, TYT's always had a sponsor. So I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about, bro. Oh, poor me. We have to all feel bad for Jank. He's somehow the victim in this situation, even though he got to cash in on fucking Polymarket money.
I know, right?
It came with no strings attached and about a product I'm obviously comfortable with. But if you want to hate on any of us getting money to be able to be sustainable, that's your call. And to Jank, I'd say, why are you obviously comfortable with it? Why are you comfortable with Polymarket? I'd actually have more respect for Jank if he was like, yeah.
Actually, gotta go, chat.